One small step for man, one giant leap for man-DeLoreans.
Guys, you guys, y'all, come on. Hey, man, oh man. You guys, LEGO has outdone themselves this time. They gave us the Saturn V, they gave us the lunar lander, they gave us the space station. All of those are somewhere on the shelves behind me. But this one, the all-new NASA Space Shuttle Discovery, man, this thing is a thing of beauty. This thing has two of my favorite traits when it comes to LEGO making sets targeted specifically towards adults like myself. It's big, and it's beautiful. Now, I like space and I like NASA, but I'm not going to claim to be an expert on every little detail of the space shuttle, but I can say that there are a lot of excellent details included in this LEGO set. But first, the set details. This is the LEGO NASA Space Shuttle Discovery. This set was just released on the 1st of April in 2021, but it is so far from an April Fool's joke, it's not even funny. This is another 18+ set. It contains 2,354 pieces and costs a whopping, yet, in my opinion, a reasonable $199.99 here in the US. But this is not just a set that features the beautiful Space Shuttle Discovery. This set also has a Hubble Space Telescope, which is an incredible model just by itself. But we will talk more about both of these incredible looking models and look at the details within them right after we build them. The build for this set was out of this world! Get it? Because they're space-related vehicles. This build starts you off slow. It eases you into the entire process because it has you build the Hubble Space Telescope before you even think about touching the Space Shuttle model. Like I said before, this telescope build is a model and a half just by itself. This could have been an entirely separate LEGO set, and I would have paid a lot of money for that by itself. But it's just one small piece included in this entire crazy set. The first 3 bags of this 17-bag set were dedicated to this telescope model, and if you're in the market for a bunch of shiny chrome silver pieces, well, this is the model for you, albeit most of those are 2x2 curved pieces, but even so, the outside of this model is domed in chrome, and it's pretty large when it's all said and done, plus you got those weird looking solar panel pieces, which we will talk more about in a minute. And then you get to the real meat and substance of this build, and that is the shuttle itself, and it really doesn't take very long before you realize this thing is bigger than you probably expected it to be. At least that was the case with me. And while you're building that initial smooth base of the build, you realize that you're actually building in some interesting mechanics, and you don't really know what those are going to turn out to be, but you can assume that those are going to be the landing gear of this whole shuttle, and lo and behold, they are just that, and those mechanics are very cool. We'll also talk about those in a minute, but then you start building upwards and onwards and into space and beyond the human frontier or whatever. You start building the rest of the shuttle, and that part, it's just as fun and it's just as nice to build. The entire build took about 6 hours if I was estimating, just based on how I built it, and that was just straight through. It took me about 6 hours, and man, I enjoyed every minute of it, and in the end, like I said, it's just so much bigger than you expected it to be. The stickers are a bit of a pain, we'll also talk about that in a second, but in the end, you're left with this big, huge, beautiful, crazy model, and it's just, you have nowhere to put it. Your wife's a little upset with you for having nowhere to put it. That's not really true. She's very supportive. In the end, you have a big, beautiful model that you can be so proud to display and so proud to own. You smell that? That is human ingenuity personified. Maybe not personified, maybe per-shuttleified, whatever you want to say. It's human ingenuity and innovation just encompassed in what was a space shuttle, a golden era of space flight and technology coming together, and we would literally strap shuttles to giant rocket boosters, fire them off into space to do science and stuff, and we learned so much. And personally, I was lucky enough to be alive during the shuttle era, and I was lucky enough to be living in South Florida at the time. That's a little ways away from where they would actually launch the rockets, but I remember in my childhood, if we stood on the top of a certain high bridge, then when they were launching a rocket, we could look off into the distance and see a little light shooting up into the sky with a big smoke trail trailing behind it. And my parents would be like, that's a space shuttle. We're launching astronauts into space. And man, I was a kid. I didn't really understand it at the time, but looking back as an adult, I was so lucky to just grow up during that era and during that period when the space shuttle was around and was being launched. And now, I think we're starting to enter a new era of space flight and space exploration, not just with SpaceX and the countless other space agencies that are launching things into space, but it's so fun to be able to call my kid into the room and be like, hey, SpaceX is launching the next Starship. Let's go watch the launch on TV. And my 4-year-old would run into the room, and my 1.5-year-old, he doesn't know what's going on. But at the end of all those new Starship launches, they have a little fireworks show. So that's a pretty neat little touch that they're doing there. But seriously, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on spaceflight or space shuttles or the Hubble Space Telescope, but I can say that I am proudly a casual space fan, and I'm really excited to see new stuff being launched into space constantly, and I'm really, really excited to finally own a LEGO Space Shuttle. But before we talk about that, let's first talk about what I am hesitant to even call a supplementary build in this whole thing, and that's the Hubble Space Telescope model. This model includes a beautiful yet subtle display stand. It has a little plaque with some information on it. That's very nice to have as well. There are also some cool details throughout this build, not all of which I recognize. Like I said, I'm a casual space fan, so I don't know every detail of the Hubble Space Telescope that was launched, in 1990? That was literally 30 years ago. But I do really like the design of this little telescope. LEGO has once again taken on an interesting challenge to build out of LEGO bricks, and that is to build very cylindrical objects. There are a bunch of little dongles and doodads hanging off the edges of this thing. I think the colors are relatively accurate. There is an opening and closing front hatch window opening piece that exposes the telescope element of this satellite, and then there are the solar panels, which I think is maybe the most interesting part about this build. The solar panels, or solar arrays, or whatever they're actually called in this case, they're not made out of LEGO brick pieces or smooth plates like they are in the space station that came out a little while ago. They're instead made of that very firm plastic material. It's printed on a very shiny gold plastic with some blue printing on top of there as well. But I think it conveys what LEGO was going for very well here, and that's that those solar panels, solar arrays, whatever they are, they look very delicate and gentle, and I like that, and I don't like that because they're kind of flimsy and they kind of want to warp every once in a while. But overall, I think aesthetically they work really well in this model. But maybe the craziest part about this Hubble Space Telescope model is that it's big, and yet it still fits entirely within the payload bay of the Space Shuttle model. That is, of course, once you pop off those solar arrays and close up that front hatch, but overall that's a big model to fit inside this otherwise also very big model. So let's talk about this Space Shuttle model. Here are the things I like about it. Everything. Every single bit about it. The size, the shape, the aesthetics, the price, the color, whatever there is about this set, I like it. Here are my dislikes about this set. It's the stickers, specifically the curved stickers that are inside the cargo bay. We'll look at those in a second. First, the scale of this ship. It's big. Look at this thing. It's 18 inches long or so. It is not in any way insubstantial. And again, I think that was the best way that LEGO could approach this model, because the best way to capture very interesting curves and bumps and bulges and weird angles and stuff in a model is to scale that model up. And I think that's exactly what LEGO did. We've got a very interestingly shaped delta wing formation going on with those wings. The back engines are very interestingly shaped, including the two maneuvering engines, I think they're called, the two bulgy engines on top of the shuttle. And then the whole nose in the cockpit area, it has a very interesting, like I said, a very distinct shape to the space shuttle that I think could only be captured at this scale. In the details category of this set, once we open up those giant cargo bay or payload bay doors, whatever you want to call them, you've got a lot of detail in there. Inside that cargo bay is cool, and what I assume are a lot of very accurate space shuttle little bobs and bits and doodads. Some of the recognizable bits are the little camera pieces. There's a big arm piece that is articulatable. It reminds me of the arm piece on the space station. I think this is another Canada arm. So shout out to Canada and Brick and Nick for donating that arm very generously to the Space Shuttle project, but I think that's what that's supposed to be. You can simulate the deployment of the Hubble Space Telescope using that arm, but we'll also look at that simulated deployment in a second. But first, other details going on with this set. Moving up to the front end of this set, where we have obviously the cockpit with a custom printed Space Shuttle windshield piece. If we lift up right around that windshield, we can see the cockpit area, which has some little blue chairs, which I love very much. There are a whole bunch of instrument panels, and I really like the scale of this little area. I do wish LEGO had included some of those tiny little micro figure astronaut pieces. I know they wouldn't have looked exactly right standing up in these little chairs, but even so, it would have been fun to see those little dudes in this little environment. If we lift that entire cockpit area up even further, we can see yet more crew quarters down below. There's another little blue chair. There's even a little airlock there, which I assume is supposed to be leading to the cargo bay. And even on the outside of the ship near that front section, there is another little airlock where the astronauts could get in and out of the shuttle. Then moving to the rear of the shuttle, that's where we get to the really fun stuff. And I'm not just talking about the big old rocket engines on the back of this thing, I'm also talking about the little old rocket engines on the back of this thing, because that's where all of the engines are. I think those big barrel pieces are supposed to simulate the larger engine pieces. These smaller pieces, I believe, are like the maneuvering engines that the shuttle used while it was up in space. There is a huge vertical fin sticking up off of the back of this thing, which also has a rudder attached to the back of it. I believe that's supposed to be a vertical stabilizer / an air brake, because the fun thing is that LEGO made this piece able to actually open up both on either side, and so you can actually simulate an air brake when this thing would be landing on the ground. I have scoured this entire model to try to find a button that would deploy the parachutes out the back of this thing while it was landing, but unfortunately I was not able to find those pieces. But another fun feature is that if you happen to turn that center booster on the back of this shuttle, it turns the couple of, I think they're rudders, but I think they're officially called elevons, but basically they are the rudders of this shuttle that would let it steer when it was coming in for a landing. And what may be the most fun feature of this shuttle is also a part of that landing process, and that is if you push in this body flap, I'm not sure what it's called, there's a little flap under those rear engines, which I think was also used for stabilization and slowing the shuttle down when it was landing. But if you push that in, we deploy the landing gear on this shuttle. That's all done with some very cool technique and just system set mechanics, and basically there's an entire long line of plates running along the entire interior of this set, and when you move this rear flap in and out, it moves that entire line of plates, and that pushes these little wheel pieces in and out that are attached to some spring-loaded pistons, and so they've got some good springy action to them, and that deploys those wheels, and then you can simulate a very cool, very nice landing, and the entire shuttle will roll very nicely along the runway. Unfortunately, there's no automatic retraction of that landing gear. You gotta just push that in yourself, but I am not about to complain about that super cool feature of this set. Now, I'm not going to call this a play feature, but something this set is obviously simulating is the deployment of the Hubble Space Telescope out of the cargo bay of this shuttle. One of the coolest things about this set, like I said earlier, is that that entire Hubble Space Telescope will fit entirely inside the cargo bay of this shuttle. Those cargo bay doors can close. You can display and store this entire model all bundled up together. Now, when it comes to deploying this Hubble Space Telescope, like I said, I'm not going to call this a play feature because you're not going to play with this set and be like, look, I'm deploying the satellite up into space. It's more like if you would like to display this set in its form as if it was in the process of deploying that satellite, this is basically how you would do it, how I have it here in front of me right now. So you pop the solar arrays off the Hubble, you put on these two little extra gold pin looking pieces that I think are supposed to simulate those solar arrays retracted or not deployed or rolled up in whatever state they were before they got deployed, and you can attach that Canadarm to the entire telescope, but you also stick this big kind of bulky looking black display piece to hold up the Hubble Space Telescope, and you also have to pop off a little piece of the telescope itself so there's a place on which to attach that weird bulky hold up piece. But ultimately I don't think it detracts too much from the aesthetic. I don't know that I would display this set all opened up like this. I kind of like the sleek closed up view of the shuttle personally, but overall you can choose to display it this way. It does look pretty cool. I'm not going to call it a play feature, but it is kind of fun to play with it this way. Alright, enough gushing about all the stuff that I do like about this set. Let's talk about the one thing I don't like, and that is, unfortunately, the use of stickers. Something I liked about the Saturn V rocket. I don't think that ship had a lot of stickers, if any stickers. There are a whole bunch of printed pieces. They say USA and United States, and they have American flags, and they just overall make you feel very patriotic while building that set. This set, I felt somewhat patriotic, but still, I lost a little bit because of the couple of stickers. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind the couple of stickers that just have like Discovery branding on them. There's also a bunch of printed pieces that say USA, United States. There's also one that says NASA and Discovery on the side of it. The ones I really did not like applying are the very shiny stickers on the interior of the cargo bay doors. Now, for the sake of displaying this set as accurately as possible, both in terms of how the shuttle actually looked and in terms of how LEGO wanted this set represented, I did decide to apply those stickers, but man, that was a pain in the rear elevon engines, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't think that's a thing. The worst part about it is that they're very reflective stickers, and so the entire time you have to watch your own face struggling to apply stickers to a curved surface. So look, anyone can give you the details of this set, but not everyone can give you my opinions on this set. So here are my opinions. If you haven't already guessed, I like this set a whole bunch. Here's what I think about the Space Shuttle. I don't think we're going to get another LEGO Space Shuttle for a very long time, and so if you are at all interested in this set, I would go pick it up. It probably will not get discounted. It will probably fly off the shelves. It will probably be very popular. Here's why I think that. I usually buy new sets like this the day they first come out. I went down to the LEGO store this morning. It's a Thursday morning, about 10, 11 a.m., and I'll usually gauge the popularity of a new set based on how many other mid-30s dudes are standing in line at the LEGO store. In this case, I was the fourth mid-30s dude in line at the LEGO store, but quickly a long line formed behind me, also full of dudes in their mid-30s. Luckily, our LEGO store had plenty of this set to go around from what I could tell, so I don't think anyone was going to be left out on this particular day, but I would be surprised if this set stays in stock for very long. I try to think how likely LEGO is to make another large-scale space shuttle set, and honestly, I don't see them making another set like this for 10, 20, 15 years, if ever again in the future. This may be the ultimate space shuttle set that we ever see from LEGO. New Star Wars sets, new X-Wing sets, we can kind of count on LEGO to give us a new X-Wing, what, every couple of years, just in various sizes and color models, but the last time we got a space shuttle was what, 10, 15 years ago, and I mean, honestly, this is unfortunately an outdated spacecraft at this point, and so if they're gonna build new rocket models, they're probably going to be more modern models, and so I think this is maybe your last and your best chance to pick up the new space shuttle set, if you want any space shuttle set. But look, these are all just the opinions of a mid-30s, mildly enthusiastic space and LEGO fan. If you are not those things and you don't think this set is very appealing to you, then by all means, pass it by, save your $200. Also, I'm not trying to say that girls can't be fans of space or LEGO or NASA by any means. I'm just calling it like I saw it, the kind of people that I saw that happened to be at the LEGO store early on this particular Thursday morning. By all means, we need more women in STEM, and that includes in space. I think that's what the S stands for in STEM. No, it doesn't. I know that the S stands for science. I just have a very hard time being genuine about things. That's kind of just my persona. I apologize. We do need more women in all of those kinds of fields, and I am genuinely excited for the future of space travel and space flight and the ability to go back to the moon and go to Mars and even beyond. It's just a very exciting time for me as a space fan. And so overall, and I mean actually overall, I am genuinely so happy to own this set. I was excited about it before it came out, and it still blew my expectations out of the water, out of the atmosphere, let's say. I will proudly display this set on my shelves for many years to come. And I know I probably got some details wrong in talking about these different spaceships and shuttles and all that. Like I said, I am a casual space fan. I do not claim at all ever to know everything about the subjects about which I am speaking. Just try to see my inaccuracies as endearing instead of annoying, and it'll make it a lot easier to watch these videos. But if you do want to give constructive criticism or just shed more light on whatever subject it is that we're talking about and whatever video it is that we're making, then by all means do so, just do so politely, like this dude does in the comments down below. I am always excited to see big lengthy comments that give more details and let me, as a creator, learn more about whatever subject I happen to be talking about that day. But on the subject of commenting on videos, please let me know know what you think about this set in the comments down below. Obviously, I'm fanboying a little bit. I like NASA, I like space shuttles and all that, and so I'm probably finding it hard to see faults in this particular set. But if there are things that you don't like or things that you wish were done differently, please let me know those things in the comments down below. I am so excited, and it's always cool to hear the opinions of other people, especially when they differ from my own. But as always, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And as always, just be sure to tell your friends about all the things in the space shuttles and we're going into space. Hippy dippy. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time in space. We already did that bit. I'll see you next time among the stars. I'll see you next time on Starship 15. We skipped 12, 13, 14 because those were an older model. We scrapped those, now we're going straight to 15. And hopefully it doesn't blow up when it comes down for a landing. But hey, that belly flop maneuver, that's something, right? We're not talking about SpaceX, we're talking